That's the power of all that is. It's the same power you have. You have the ability to tap into the infinite power of the universe, which is what you are, and as a result of tapping into that, have everything you want come into your life experience without you having to do anything to make it happen. In the same way, my client did nothing, and yet the universe orchestrated multiple people, including the CEO of his current company, to take actions that put a fire under Rob's ass. Welcome to Worthiness Wednesday. I'm Perry Gruber, the Enlightenment Guy. For more than a decade, I've helped people master their mindsets so they can create lives they love and get results without the burnout or the hustle. And today, I have a magnificent story to tell you. This happened just this week, over the course of 3 weeks, but culminated this week with an amazing manifestation a new advanced client received in the context of his high-profile, high-pressure corporate position at a major international organization. I'm going to leave some of the details vague for legal and privacy reasons, but I definitely want to describe as much as I can of what happened because it is so magical, so mystical, and I'm going to include a segment, an audio segment from the session that we just had, this client and I just had this week, where you can hear in his own words his wonder and amazement at the manifestation he produced for himself. So just some background so that you can understand the excerpt when I play it. It's so good. This client, as I said, is a high-level professional in a major manufacturing firm. He's at the VP level in the current company he works for, but he does not have that title, nor does he have the income commensurate with that title. And for the last year and a half or so, his company has been promising him that they were going to give him a vice president title. Of course, he would have to earn it, but he would be designated a vice president and have the commensurate salary. Now, vice president in a corporation is a major milestone in anyone's career, and it tends to bring with it lots and lots of material perks, not to mention a very high salary. So my client was looking forward to the company delivering on its promise. This was early last year. But over the course of the spring and fall, the company started dragging its feet. And then it started to ask my client to do things that a vice president would ordinarily have to do, but they weren't allowing my client to have the vice president designation or the material benefits that come with it. And as a result of that, my client was becoming frustrated. Now, this is the contrast, this frustration and the experiences of the company dragging its feet. This is the contrast that my client needed in order to identify what he wanted from what he didn't want. What he didn't want was to be doing the work of a vice president, but not be receiving all the benefits of being a vice president. And he also didn't want to have to do the things that this particular company was asking him to do. Little did he know, because he wasn't an advanced client at that time, I've now since promoted him, but before he received the promotion, he didn't realize that leaning in the direction of what he wants will get him what he wants faster. And so over the course of the remainder of the year, through the summer of last year until December of last year, I was showing the client how to do that, how to lean in the direction of what he wanted. And I told him that he could not focus on how or when what he wanted was going to happen. He had to leave the details up to the universe, I told him. And this is what I tell all of my clients. The details of how your desire manifests are not up to you. Your job is to line up with what you want, is to clarify for yourself what you want, feel the indicator that you're aligned with what you want, which is positive emotion, and then watch as the universe coordinates all the cooperative components so that what you want manifests in your life without you having to do anything to have that happen. And this is exactly what happened with this client. But he didn't know it was happening until what happened this week happened. So more backstory. He's had to lay off a number of people in different departments that he oversees as a director in the company, and he wasn't having a good time doing that. In the meantime, above him, his boss was going through some churn as well. And so his boss, I'm going to call him Rob because that's his name. His boss decided to move to another company. Unbeknownst to my client, this is so good. Rob was feeling regret that he wasn't able to succeed in getting my client the vice president title. And so he left the company with some regrets, and he went on to a different company and took a higher level position within that other company. Before he left this company where my client currently works, he wrote a thank you card to my client, as well as some other people underneath him. A couple of months went by, and then Rob reached out to my client. Now, if you work in the corporate world, you know that corporations put limits on what people who used to work in their organization can do once they leave their organization. There are non-disclosure agreements and there are non-compete agreements. And Rob had signed both a non-disclosure and a non-compete agreement. Nevertheless, even though he signed those things, he reached out to my client after landing in his new company and essentially told my client that he wanted my client to come work for him at the new company at a vice president level. This was the beginning of the manifestation that my client had wanted to realize. And I told him back then, when Rob had reached out, that there's no way my client could have predicted that this is how he was going to get the vice president title that he wanted. He thought that the vice president title was going to come through the company that he currently works in. But I knew, based on the contrast he was experiencing, that company was not the place that was going to happen. It was going to happen some other way. And here was Rob, having landed at a different, very large company, a company much larger than the one he used to work at, the one where my client works. Here was Rob reaching back to my client and inviting him to this new position. Now, corporations don't move very fast. They're very large and they have a lot of rigmarole they have to go through in the HR department to process new hires, particularly new hires at vice president levels. And so, despite the non-compete, Rob had invited my client to participate in some interviews that would allow him to be vetted by the new company in order to grease the skids for my client to come into the new company at the vice president level. So my client had gone through a couple of these interviews, one with the president, the other with the CEO, and those interviews went really well. Then everything went silent. And for about 3 weeks, my client hadn't heard anything from Rob or the company or the recruiter who was working with Rob or anyone else at the new company about whether or not my client was going to get an offer letter. And so one day, a couple weeks ago, in session, my client was wondering if he should reach out to Rob and find out what's going on. I knew it was not a good idea for him to do that. Not that it was bad. Most people would reach out, but I wanted my client to experience the power of the force. No, I'm just kidding. The power of the universe and how the universe is actively coordinating for my client everything he wants in order to realize this vice president position. I told him, don't reach out to Rob. Let the universe take care of it. And that's exactly what happened. So I'm not going to go into a lot of the details because the excerpt that I'm about to play for you pretty much details what happened. Now remember, I'm about to play the excerpt, but remember, I'm starting the excerpt just after my client had asked if he should reach out to Rob, and I said, don't reach out to Rob, let the universe orchestrate it. Rob will get back to you. And this is what happened this week. Let's take a listen.
Yeah, so last week was fun, interesting.
Tell me more.
Yeah, so I sent you that picture with Yvonne, right?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, well, right before then, the CTO that now had his job cut in half because Dr. Fedorchuk took the other half. I think he was kind of in a fuck it mood, but he wanted to stop by and like say hi or whatever. So he flew from California in to say hi and maybe do a couple other meetings. But it was a pretty high profile meeting. So it was probably important for him to be there when Yvonne was there. And so he comes in, he's talking to, Travis and I, who are sort of the same rank in, this particular business line. And he was like, hey, or Travis goes, I've been waiting to give both of you your cards from Rob. Here's your cards. They're handwritten notes from Rob. There were only a few given, but you guys were on the list and I just haven't seen you since. So we each got our cards, and I think I gave you a picture of the card, didn't I?
These are like goodbye cards. Thanks for being a good coworker kind of card.
It wasn't just be a good coworker kind of card. It was, hey, I know you did a lot of things you did, and I appreciate all the loyalty and what you did for me. And I feel like, you're going to do great things. And I hope to work with you later. That was it.
You did not share me that card, and that's awesome.
But it was a really good card. It was a really good card. He didn't have to say that, right? Yeah. And he also expressed that he felt a lot of regret for not being able to get me promoted on his way out. And it weighed on him.
Oh,
so anyway.
Hang on a second. Does the guy who gave you the card know what was in the card?
No, it was sealed.
He did not. Okay, good.
Yeah. And then the old CTO guy, he likes to take selfies with people, right? And he goes, I'm going to send this to Rob, who's my old boss. And he's like, I'm going to send this to Rob. And it's like, can we just all get in there? And at first I was like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't take a selfie with these guys. That seems weird. And you send it to Rob. Huh. But I didn't know how to like say no. So I was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. So takes a selfie, sends it to Rob. Rob replies immediately. He's like, hey, I'm in Germany. Thanks for taking care of my guys. And, something cheeky like that. And they text back and forth a couple of times. And I remember I talked to Megan later that night, and then the Yvonne thing happened, where I was getting lunch right after this, and then Yvonne comes through and sits down like center. Turns out I'm about to go back to my seat, and I was like, I think Yvonne's sitting in my seat. Well, here we go. He wasn't sitting in my seat; he was sitting in the seat next to mine. So I sat down in my normal seat. And I said, hey, Yvonne, I'm Jason. Good to meet you. And he was like, I remember you. We've done M&A deals together. I've seen you present several times. You're on the Rosa Connectivity thing. How's that going? And, I gave him shit for, missing out on all those airline miles because he flies private now all the time.
Okay.
And so anyway, we got a little bantering there. But then I was talking to Megan that night, and she's like, oh, you should probably text Rob and see what's up. And I was like, I don't think so. I have a feeling that selfie that got sent to him is going to make him do a thing.
Exactly.
Right? And then no joke, like an hour after that or 2 hours after that, I get a text message from somebody that used to work for me like 5 years ago, but like left the company. And he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I was like, "Oh, good. I'm in Warsaw. Are you still here?" And he goes, No. I moved my family out to Florida. We're there now. Been here for a couple of years, working for whoever." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And pinged back and forth a few times. I'm like, "Hey, just out of curiosity, what made you reach out now?" He goes, "Oh, your picture on LinkedIn." I'm like,
Oh.
"I have a picture on LinkedIn?" And I remember the whole camera crew that follow around modern CEOs these days so they can put their shit on social media. And I guess that's just a thing people do now.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Anyway, so then Megan was kind of right to maybe reach out, but the reach out was going to happen anyway because of both of these things. The LinkedIn thing, Rob saw me, elbow rubbing with the CEO, and then the picture from the old CTO. So I get a text message at like 5:48 in the morning. "Hey, been a while since we last talked. We should try to catch up today." And I was like, "Okay,
Rob?
Great." Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And so we arranged for a time at like 9:30. I stepped out of the conference during one of the sessions to take his call. He's in Germany. He's going to spend the night, and he's flying on to India. He goes,
Wow.
"Hey, I'm flying on to India to meet with your team." And I was like, "Oh, okay." "So we're still on?" He goes, "Yeah, I was just having to get the money approved, the title. There was some, bullshit HR stuff about the fact that we laid somebody off in exactly the same kind of position, configuration." I basically told everybody to just get over it. And so I think we're ready to go. I'm ready to open up the requisition, get you to apply to it. You don't have to interview with anybody. It's the interviewing thing's done. I'm like, "Oh, I thought those were just exploratory conversations." He's like, No. It's everybody's on board. Like everybody gets it after talking to you. And so enough people talk to you where this isn't a concern. No one's got a concern. So it's a done deal. You're gonna have to take a couple of personality quizzes or whatever, but they hired a psychopath like me. So what's the difference, right? You'll pass, no problem. And I was like, "Okay." We, bantered a little bit about this and that, but, in the end, it comes out, just corporate bullshit that he had to work through.
Yeah.
And no worries, but, it had been 3.5 weeks.
Yeah.
So, it feels like everything's still on.
Can you see how everything you just shared perfectly unfolded in a way?
Oh, yeah. I couldn't have forced it if I tried.
Right?
I couldn't have forced it if I tried. Like, had I tried to orchestrate the panic for Rob to feel to get on it.
Exactly.
It couldn't have unfolded better.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, the LinkedIn post from Yvonne, the selfie with that. It couldn't have been more on point, like perfection.
Right. It's like it's the mystical nature of the universe that your CEO would choose a seat right next to yours and then get you picture in the same picture and then have that one picture go on to LinkedIn. Right?
Here's the thing, you guys. Even in corporate America, the fundamental spiritual principles underlying how physical reality works holds sway. They dominate, even in the corporate world. Here we have a corporate officer, a senior level individual, a director, using the fundamental spiritual principles underlying how physical reality works, using his alignment to those, and allowing the universe to provide him exactly what he wanted, which is to put a fire under Rob's ass. And that's exactly what happened. And the thing is, it happened in a way, you heard my client say it himself. It happened in a way more exquisite than he could have imagined or planned himself. That's the power of all that is. It's the same power you have. You have the ability to tap into the infinite power of the universe, which is what you are, and as a result of tapping into that, have everything you want come into your life experience without you having to do anything to make it happen, in the same way my client did nothing, and yet the universe orchestrated multiple people, including the CEO of his current company, to take actions that put a fire under Rob's ass. It's so good. Life is so good, and it just gets gooder the more you know how to leverage the fundamental spiritual principles underlying how physical reality works. My clients are learning these, just like this client you heard from. Some of my clients are masters. Some, like this client, have been recently designated an advanced practitioner. You can be too. If you'd like to become a client, reach out to me in the comments or go to positivelyfocused.co and you can become a client that way. And even if you don't, I trust you've enjoyed this story. It's a fantastic story. And I'll see you in the next video.